Greetings, dear viewers. Today is January 16th, and you are in for an incredible military update. Every day, the advance of the Russian army continues, even during winter, which allows us to bring you fresh news from the front lines. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. We begin with the Dzerzhinsky direction. After the Russian army captured the city of Dzerzhinsky, they began clearing its outskirts. Specifically, Russian assault units have firmly secured positions on the western and southwestern outskirts of the town of Krimsk, which is a satellite settlement of Dzerzhinsky. The advance is ongoing toward the Toretsk mine. This means that Dzerzhinsky is essentially fully liberated, with only the outskirts remaining to be cleared, where the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, are still attempting to hold their defenses. However, we know this won't last long. Moving on to the area near Vozdvizhenka. Once again, the Russian army continues its offensive through the fields between the Pokrovsk and Dzerzhinsky directions. A significant portion of the Baranivka settlement has come under the confident control of Russian armed forces. It's unclear how many UAF soldiers are present in this vast field territory, possibly none. It's highly likely that the UAF has no defensive lines here at all. The area is quite sparse, and it's possible that the Russian army is advancing here with very small forces. According to our sources, in the Baranivka area, only a couple of dozen Russian soldiers engaged with a few remaining Ukrainian units, so progress here will be slow. The objective seems to be formal control over the territory between the two directions to establish a reliable Konstantinovka foothold for an offensive toward Konstantinovka. Heavy battles with the Ukrainian army are unlikely in this area. Next, west of Zverevo, there is significant pressure from Russian liberation forces. Zverevo is essentially a suburb of Pokrovsk. In the Pokrovsk area, the UAF recently blew up one of the mines to prevent the Russian army from encircling their grouping. This is a clear example of scorched earth tactics. Additionally, the most critical development is in Kotlina, a settlement located beyond one of the main supply roads leading to Pokrovsk from the Dnipropetrovsk region. This road was recently cut off, and part of Kotlina was swiftly captured. Kotlina also houses a coking coal mine critical to 80% of Ukraine's steel industry. Despite ongoing military actions, the mine continued partial operations until recently due to its importance to Ukraine's economy. Soon, this mine will come under Russian control, which will be highly beneficial for Russia's revitalized economy. Simultaneously, Russian assault units are confidently advancing along the Sulty River toward the Dnipropetrovsk region. They've secured positions on the outskirts of Uspanovka and made progress north of Uspanovka, moving toward the regional border. Very soon, friends, we will witness the entry into the Dnipropetrovsk region. This will be a groundbreaking event, especially politically, for the opposing side. Kiev consistently places symbolic importance on such political steps. But for us, it will be a significant blow to them, much greater than any symbolic incursion into our border regions. In the Kurakhovo pocket, fields are being cleared. Interestingly, in the Zelenovka area, slightly southeast of Zelenovka, Russian forces crossed the Suky Yali River in another location to advance across the fields toward the village of Ulakli. Here, the situation remains stable. In Velyka Novosilka, an important frontline point, there has been little news recently. However, symbolically significant developments have occurred. Sources on both sides confirm that the Ukrainian side, including Deep State, has finally acknowledged the loss of Neskuchnoye after a long delay. The village has been captured by the Russian army. More importantly, half of Vremyevka is now under Russian control, according to today's updates. The offensive toward Velyka Novosilka continues, gradually closing the Velyka Novosilka pocket. Following this, we expect a repetition of the Ugledar campaign on a larger scale within this part of Donbass. All these villages will fall fairly quickly. Velyka Novosilka was the key defensive node here, and a breakthrough by the Russian army toward the Dnipropetrovsk region is highly likely. A decisive advance into the Dnipropetrovsk region is on the horizon. Let's discuss the political developments over the past 24 hours related to the Special Military Operations Zone. First, hearings are ongoing in Congress. After the nomination of the candidate for Secretary of Defense, Pike Hexet, the focus shifted to hearings regarding the appointment of a woman a Scientologist and former Florida Attorney General, whom Trump wants to nominate as Attorney General of the United States. She is known as an opponent of U.S. military aid to Ukraine, but as Attorney General, her influence on U.S. foreign policy will be minimal, if any. Therefore, this is of little interest to us. What is more interesting is the nomination of Marco Rubio as Secretary of State in Trump's administration. The Secretary of State is essentially the U.S. equivalent of a Minister of Foreign Affairs, shaping all aspects of the country's foreign policy. During his hearings, Rubio made several crucial statements. He mentioned that Ukraine's neutral status would be a subject of negotiations and stated that both Ukraine and the U.S. would need to make concessions during these talks, as would Russia. Rubio explicitly emphasized the necessity for Americans to compromise with Russia. This statement is politically significant and highly controversial, sparking heated debates in Congress. Neoconservatives, particularly the hardline ones among Republicans, were dissatisfied with such rhetoric. They realized that Trump's foreign policy doctrine will be based on dialogue with Russia, something they strongly oppose. From our perspective, as I've said before, the only true diplomat is the Russian soldier. The outcome of this conflict depends entirely on the effectiveness of the Russian army's advance against the faltering Ukrainian entity. Hoping for Trump, Rubio, Vance, Hexet, or anyone else is unnecessary. Their opinions and decisions are irrelevant. Everything depends on how effectively the Russian army continues its operations. However, much will depend on how actively the U.S. continues supporting Ukraine. While it is certain that Trump's administration will continue supporting Ukraine, it is likely to be minimal compared to Biden's efforts. Trump's team is clearly serious about pursuing negotiations on Ukraine and achieving a compromise. This is crucial for them to save face and avoid a scenario similar to Afghanistan, where the U.S. had to withdraw in disgrace. They aim to avoid a humiliating retreat from Ukraine by reaching an agreement with Russia. Trump's team understands that Ukraine is a losing card, that Ukraine has no chance of victory. Their strategy is to lull Russia with proposals. According to reports, including those from Bloomberg, there are rumors that under Trump, Washington plans to offer joint U.S.-Russia space programs, such as lunar exploration, as part of a deal. Additionally, Trump's team is reportedly prepared to offer the lifting of most U.S. sanctions in exchange for Russia halting its advance in Ukraine. This willingness to compromise reflects their recognition of the current reality, not any goodwill toward Russia. Interestingly, Marco Rubio's remarks about concessions and Ukraine's neutral status are at odds with statements made by Emily Japarova, Ukraine's first Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, who recently declared that Ukraine's NATO membership is non-negotiable and that the ban on direct talks with Moscow remains in effect. This highlights a conflict of interest between the Trump administration and Kyiv, which is highly intriguing. Moreover, Ukraine's Ministry of Finance announced that the US dollar would no longer be its primary reserve currency. Instead, Ukraine plans to adopt the euro as its main reserve currency. This move is a significant affront to Trump's team, as one of Trump's declared goals is to maintain the dominance of the dollar. To achieve this, he seeks to abandon sanctions policies against China, Russia, and Iran. This unfolding conflict between Trump's administration and Kyiv, as well as Ukraine's pivot toward the euro, is an important development to watch.